Hi, this is Scott Ware with Radiance Magazine, which we found at radiancemagazine.org, and from the Radiance channel on Xpnsion Network, which we found on Roku and Amazon Fire Stick. And I have with me today special guest Dannion Brinkley. Dannion, say hello.
Hello. Hi, Scott. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for being here. I know the screen says Mel Minotaur. That is a friend of yours, so we know we're not talking to Mel Minotaur. But it does sound like sort of like one of those aliases you'd have on one of those online games. Are you an online gamer, Dannion?
Well, let's just say this, no. But do I support gaming? Yes. And do I think gaming is playing an important part in the elevation of consciousness as well as control or video addiction as anything else? But I think once people believe holographic interactions of seeing themselves as multi-avatars, it could benefit them as they grow out in the normal world.
That is fascinating subject matter. Let me go back and tell people a little bit about who you are if they don't know. Dannion Brinkley is the author of the New York Times and international bestsellers Saved by the Light and At Peace in the Light. His books, tours, and lectures with his wife, Catherine, have transformed the consciousness of people across the world. And it was during a thunderstorm, you were on the phone back in '75, bolt of lightning hit the phone line, sending thousands of volts into your head, down through your body. You died. They pronounced you dead. You came back. You died a second time. You died a third time. And what was it, 2019, a fourth time now?
2018, October the 14th, 2018.
Now, and that sounds so interesting, but all along the way, you've been working in hospices, working with the dying. I assume your near-death experiences have given you information that helped you with those people. Can you give us the background and the short version of that?
Great question. Remember, Scott, I'm from South Carolina. Everybody goes to hell in South Carolina. So if you're going to be religious in any way, you might as well determine you're trying to avoid hell, and based on how the fundamentalist control paradigm exists, you're eternally damned. And I was there when I was 7. Okay, so I couldn't handle all of that as a psychological place, so I never dealt with religion.
Right.
And I grew up in playing sports, and I was in the Marine Corps, and I lived in that shadowy world of what the government was, what you heard, what was real and what was not real. You know, the disillusioned and the way the government operates. So
Sure.
1975, I was my typical prick self.
Yes.
Oh, an arrogant, pompous, big, tough guy thinking I know everything because I could hit you harder and faster than you could hit me. Okay.
And all that has changed completely, right?
Well, here's what happened. All of a sudden, you're struck by lightning.
Yes.
Hits you in the side of the neck. It goes down your spine. It welds the nails of the heels of your shoes to the floor. It throws you in the air, suspends you in it, and it slams you down on the bed, and you're burning it, and you're on fire, and it's like acid.
Wow.
Okay, and you cannot move, and you cannot see because the flash, the ball of lightning coming through the room when the lightning struck, singed my eyes. I wore welder's glasses for over a year.
Really?
This is where I am. And all of a sudden, I lift out of my body. I lift out of it, and I have no pain, and I can see. So wherever it was I was far better than the place I just left. Okay?
Sure.
This is me looking at it, that I just left.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see everything around me radiated. You know, it radiated. And I never looked at myself. These are things that I've thought about, Scott. I never looked at myself, which would be the first thing. As a human being, you normally check yourself, look at your hands, see if you're hurt.
Right.
Whatever you're doing, okay? But I never even looked at me. I was so amazed by everything had a radiance to it. It had a vibrancy to it. And to my left was a tree. There was a potted plant. And I've told this story 1,000 times, but this is stuff that impacts me, Scott.
Sure.
There was this little tree called a rubber plant that in the 70s, you'd buy it. It was tied, stick it in the ground, it would grow and be beautiful. Well, I hated the plant. I hated it because I would break leaves off of it coming down the hall because where she had placed it was so it would be next to the screen door, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But that plant was worrying about me. Now think about me as a redneck, bully, to see a plant worrying about me.
Now, what was it about the plant that told you it was worrying about you?
It could communicate. It was when you're not in this body, Scott, there are levels and waves of energy existing at all times. They existed at all times, and each of them is based on a structure that you have dealing with gathering information to grow your spiritual identity in ways that it makes a difference in this world. And that's automatically the purpose. What's the meaning of life? Well, once you lift out of your body, and once you realize that you have never been that body, it's like putting on a bunch of coats.
Wow.
And you've never been it. And you see it's a machine that you put on so that you can operate in an electromagnetic field, okay? Because the atmosphere is energy, everything is energy, everything can be broken down to Planck spheres, which is like 21 subatomic frequencies, and it's all still orderly, and we today can detect that order, okay? And once you realize that that has nothing to do with you as a being, and you're not in burning and pain, and you go down this tunnel and you come to this place of light, and there are different ways that this happening, because this happened to me 40 years ago, over 40 years ago.
But how much has it worn off after all that time, if at all?
Well, I die probably every 8 or 9 or 10 years. So I guess from my point, it doesn't wear off, but from the teams I work with in that dimensional reality we call heaven, I'd say they think I wear it down pretty good.
Okay, so you just need review. You need review once a decade.
What I need is always to be empathetic. My drive, like this last time, was my second open heart surgery, based on that I had an aneurysm under a valve. I had a valve that I had in the first open heart surgery that was a prosthesis valve, a mechanical valve. It had worn out its warranty, and it had created a place with this aneurysm. Either I had to have the surgery, I'd die. When the surgeon got in there, she said the amount of scar tissue in there, what I look like on the inside, even what I look like on the outside, was hard for her to believe. Because of the lightning and the damage it did going through my electrical system over 40 years ago. Okay, so when I go, this is my fourth one, right? Well, I always wanted to be everything and to know everything, you know, because I pride myself on being able to analyze information and make good decisions most of the time, you know, because then I can make the most difference in the least amount of effort to create the greatest possible action that we can. Like you in the magazine.
Yep.
Putting it in the car and making it absolutely happen.
Absolutely. Now, I want to ask you, like astronauts who see the Earth from one of the rockets, and they have a spiritual experience and they see their entire lives in a new light. It has to have been that way with you in a different way, seeing us as electromagnetic beings. 4 times that you experienced near-death experiences. What did it teach you or show you that you want all of us to know?
Okay, well, this is why I'm doing the presentation at the Conscious Life Expo on February the 7th. You know, I'm there.
In Los Angeles, yep.
In Los Angeles at the Hilton, at the airport Hilton. I do it because what I want people to know is this. We all are going to be in a place of something that's guaranteed and inevitable. And if there exists something in your life that is guaranteed and inevitable that's going to affect you and everybody you love, how much do you know about it at this moment? Well, when you stop to think about that, and you stop to really look at how much you know about something that's guaranteed and inevitable, that you will be leaving here. The #1 cause of death in the world is birth.
Yes,
That's
it is.
The #1 cause of death is birth.
Yep.
You take a breath in, you live a little bit, you take a breath out. Well, I've spent my life looking at death. I've been a hospice volunteer for over 40 years. I have tens of thousands of hours at the bedside of more than 2,000 people. I study healthcare, integrative and complementary therapies in America because me being dead as many times and raising myself from the dead, there has to be an art form to how I do it based on looking at my medical records. So as I come out of this, I have a new book with Catherine called 10 Things to Know Before You Go. And it's really me making fun of death. I mean, when
Sure.
you've been with more than 2,000 people and you watch the inner dynamics, you really get what the game is. What do you need to look at? And what people do is they put off thinking about transition from this world to the next, because, Scott, no one ever dies. And I can, without any question, based on my medical records, be a definitive authority in that particular point of view. I don't care what anybody says, what they do, who they think you are, how many relatives they have. You may know as much as me, but I doubt you know more about it than me.
So if we need to understand and embody the concept that we never die, what then? Therefore, how should we look at our life? How should we live it differently?
What would be the meaning of it then? Okay? The meaning of life today in the Western consciousness is if you go into hell. That's
Right.
it. Okay? The bottom line, if you look at televangelists, look at all that stuff, what are they telling you? Okay, if you don't do this, and you don't wear no lipstick, and you don't dance, and pedophilia is okay, you know, all that stuff, and you look at all that, and you got to follow all those rules. Yeah. Why I like the whole Conscious Life Expo. What I like about it is, hey, everybody, listen. The world is polarized. There is no common ground. Spirituality, and that you will leave this world, and palliative care. And the greatest issue in Western conscious right now is the aging population of baby boomers and the last of their parents. Okay, that's 75.4 million people having to make decisions. And there are lots of really cool millennials, Scott, out there that's looking for this information but can't find it in a certain platform.
That's right.
I want to thank you for getting in the car and putting it in places that makes that difference, because that builds the linking of a transition that only you empower and impact it more. So I'm looking after people who are me. We are the baby boomers. We were born in the generation before us. We are now in our 60s and 70s and 80s and some into their 90s.
Right.
Okay, palliative care and end-of-life care is the most important points about what's happening in my generation, 74 million of us, making conscious decisions about what we have to do, when we have to do it, and why we have to do it. And these decisions can't be put off. The fear of death creates such a trauma in the lives, and the anticipation of the fear of losing someone you love creates a psychological level of manipulation and control in this reality that I have chosen myself to engage it as a falsehood. Nobody dies. It's not going to happen. So you can forget
I like it. Yes.
You can forget it. Then what will happen? I'll give at this program, and every one of these programs I do, I give people step by step ways to look at who you are, why you act like that, and what you need to do. And how do I know it? I have to face myself in something called the panoramic life review. Now watch how fun this is. Everybody thinks Jesus can come and save them. Okay, just wait for Jesus. You know, all right. Well,
yeah, Jesus saves.
Yeah, and if you believe in Jesus before you take your last breath, everything's going to be okay. That's because I've been scaring the crap out of you, because all you son of bitches is going to hell, and I've been scaring the crap out of you. I better give you some kind of relief so your family don't think you're going to burn forever when I leave with my $65 for showing up over there.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to go down a tunnel, and you come to a place of light. Everything is calm. You know this place as well as you know any place you've ever been. It's safety, it's comfort. It's like getting to grandmother's house and there's some fresh made biscuits on the counter and some honey. You know, this is me at 4, 5, and 6. But you had supper, which was in the South. You got up at 5 o'clock, you worked all day, you went through it at 4 o'clock because the body hunts sugar at 10, 2, 4, and 7. You would come in for supper, which you would get biscuits and gravy or biscuits and honey, and it was called supper because you supped it or dipped it and rolled it in and ate it. Then you went back out to dinner, which was roughly 9 to 10 o'clock at night.
Wow, okay.
Well, this is cultural Southern history.
Sure.
So when you when you stop to look at every time you make a move now, and every time you make a decision, you have to have as much information as you can possibly have to make the right medical decisions and the right prospective decisions for you and your family. So I believe with a polarized nature that we are, so politics, and this is something I'd like to say, whenever this airs, remember everybody, I heard somebody try to impeach a president on the term quid pro quo. Well, that is the definition of politics and how you pass legislature in the United States of America based on debate and decision and voting of our representatives. It is quid pro quo. So if you're going to accuse the President of the United States of that, then every congressman is already guilty at the same time. Now that's
Well, that's
fun.
true, and that's politics. I want to remind everyone, if they're tuning in late, you are not Mel Minotaur. You are Dannion Brinkley. Dannion, spelled like Dan, like Dannion.
It won't matter.
And yeah, and you're going to be at the Conscious Life Expo in February 7th of 2020. And you mentioned
so
before
let me finish this point.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm still on Jesus saving you at the last point.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Okay, so I had to add those little ditties in there, Scott, because you'll let me. But you can edit them out.
No, it's all in.
All right. So what happens is this: coming to this place of blue silvery light, and now that I'm in my fourth one of these, I have broken down each of those stages as a study. Because in the third near-death experience, I discovered a level of consciousness that I passed through that I was not aware of it as a level of consciousness because I moved through it being self-observant. I was paying attention to who I was becoming more than I was paying attention to the environment that I was operating in. But by the time I got to the third one of these things, then I could see it as a consciousness in itself, that you could linger there, that you could stay there. That it was a part of the transitional process that you go through. But when you get through all that, you get to the panoramic life of you. You will see your entire life in a 360-degree panorama. You'll watch it from a second-person point of view as if you were your own best friend. And then you will literally become every person that you have ever encountered. And you will feel the direct results of your interaction between you and that person. That's the end of the story. Okay? You're going to be them. So what does that tell you about that Jesus story? Nobody gets away with anything.
Right.
And the universe is fair and just. Well, when you learn that, and you was dead and paralyzed, and you see a bunch of visions that now what I'm famous for was a bunch of things that I wrote in Saved by the Light. Saved by the Light, which is the book that became an international world bestseller. And I wrote a series of what I call Dannion, but it was boxes of knowledge that I received, and it happened to be future events, but I never equated it as future events. I thought it was given to me as a timeline, so I would be able to see these events occur, and I would know if I was executing the plan that they sent me back to execute according to the rules that they gave me to execute it. My world is not as complicated as everybody's world is. I have been dead, Scott, and I've been dead so many times and been in so much pain that my heart is the problem, that empathizing in what I see as horrible healthcare injustice demands that I come back and fight on.
Okay, but I got to correct you on something. You were never dead, because we never die. I know what you mean.
Wait, I just appreciated. I converted one more person to reality.
You did.
You know?
You did. That's the test.
So the close is this. The conscious life is about this. Hey, everybody, we have to find middle ground. And consciousness and spirituality is the place we better start looking. We don't need religions. Science is pretty good, but we have to look inside ourselves and walk around and see other people who think what we think out of the box, because the box is delusional. It can't be real based on who we are and what we watch and see going on around us. It's insane. So I hope everybody gets a grip on paying attention to this programming that you're creating and finding a quiet place in the evenings and take a time to come look at all the things that's possible and integrate yourself into reality as opposed to delusional conceptual thought patterns created for us.
That's very well said. And in fact, probably the only common ground there is 6 feet under. Would you agree?
I was just kind of thinking,
Just a play on words. I thought I had you on that one. You said there's no common ground. See, that's okay.
I got it. Wait a minute. If you see me stop, Scott, it means the way it is structured as a sentence. This is me personally, Scott. I study sentence structure. When I'm listening to you, I listen to the sound of your voice. Everybody's voice has a certain sound to it called a mantra. That's the absolute frequency that your body is operating on. Then all I need is verbs. If I have verbs and I can study the conjugation of at least 3 or 4 verbs in sentence structure, then I'm in. I can pick up natures about you and things about you. How I got good at it is I die with people. So
Wow.
Where purity, where the concept of where 2 or more gather in my name, so shall I be among you. Okay, by taking that from a Christian point of view, then you look at it from that point. Well, that's the place you can put God to the test. And what happens when you're dying with your own relatives or you're with your parents and loved ones in transition, you make it more about you than you make it about that person in transition. And that creates that shallow problem that allows them to either hang on too long or gives them permission to let go and get the hang out of here. And there's where my fight is. You know, I know better than what you think or any religion might have taught you, not mad at concepts and philosophies. But when it gets down to transition, you got to pay attention to exactly what that person needs and then what you need step by step to get through it.
That's beautiful. I mean, you're with someone who's dying. You are holding space for them, being very present to whatever it is they need.
And then you as a family allow the force to enter. This is the key. I created the Twilight Brigade. You know, I'm just Dannion Brinkley. I'm not Mel Militer. I'm just Dannion Brinkley. But he's a good friend. He's been a good friend for a long, long time. And he goes back a long way in my life. And so I wanted to come over, and I'm home, and I wanted to come over and spend some time with him and just kind of reminisce. You know, I haven't seen him in a year or so, and reminisce. So I think that if I can get people to understand the sacredness of the space to enable someone to transition and do it with that open being present with an art form that I call the Twilight Brigade, Dannion Brinkley, the Twilight Brigade. Okay. And it's evolving now into the Transition Brigade. It will become a new entity next month. It becomes a new entity. Okay, as the new year starts, it will be another entity. And I needed to create a way, because if you can hold that space, the divine nature, there is a divine nature of when your last times are coming after what's usually called fade. It's a term where people become present and everybody thinks they're going to come home. Well, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is they come consciously aware to say goodbye. And that's the time you know it's going to happen. If I can get people to hold that sacred space, Scott, and I can get them to be aware of it just to give me a chance, they can let go faster. They don't torture them to death with pharmaceutical chemistry and art forms and surgeries. And why in the world would you do that? Why in the world, when you listen to near-death experiencers and listen to what we say? Well, a couple of us went to hell. I never could figure out why I didn't go to hell. Okay, you know, because anybody should have gone to hell, it was me. Okay, but with all many heart surgeries and brain surgeries and all the stuff I've been through and struck by lightning, I paid my dues. They got back that pound of flesh out of me. So
you can tell them you were there. I didn't see any hell.
No, I've never been to hell. I mean, here's what, when people ask me, Scott, they say, well, Dannion, what do you think about hell? Because I had this lady one time, Scott. I've been out here a long, long time, Scott. And I've been a hospice volunteer for 40 years. And I have in the 30 and 40,000 hours at the bedside. I've been with 2,010 people and 346 taking their last breath in this last 40 years. So when you stop and you take a look at what has to be the critical juncture that's blocking you from being all that you can possibly be
Mm-hmm.
comes down to the fear of death. And over 57 years old, it will constitute at least 20% of your week.
That's interesting, but a lot of people can't make that connection between frustration they have in their life, that their life isn't fulfilling, and they just go, oh, that's just the way life is, or this is the best I can get, to what the fear of death has to do. But that's why they got to read your book.
Well, the point of reading the book is, watch, I'm just a guy. There's no saintliness about me, anything. And
I don't know.
I think they kill me for that reason, because I will do what I'm told, you know, and I'll listen to the deal, and if the deal's good enough, I will get right back up. I'll go get a VA badge, and starting from with no chance to live, give me 8 months to live, and I will get back up. And if I can get to the bedside and I can be in hospice, you cannot kill me.
Wow.
You know, and I have proven this now 4 times, that the nature of the diet that I use, and the conscious intent that I put in the value of my life, and what I don't believe, there's not anything I'm not capable of trying to achieve. I can look back off on my life right now and be proud of myself, maybe 80% of everything I've ever done. I am proud of me. That other 20%, I'm trying to block out, but you know who isn't.
I hear you. It keeps coming, keeps coming. I'm proud of you too, Dannion. Thank you. And so when people, you want them to know they never die, what do you want them to know right after that? Therefore,
what is the meaning of life?
They should ask themselves that question. That sounds like a big...
That's what every one of us who's ever had a near-death experience did. Watch this. The near-death experience. I'm one of those people who drove this into modern America's consciousness. I'm one of the 2 or 3 people who were the drivers in this, okay? To bring this forward, to get this out, because it was about, you either lived in a dead universe or you lived in a living universe. Right. Medicine is a dead universe. It's just chemicals. And what I discovered was a spiritual universe. Okay, I did not care about what was going to happen after death, because I've been going to hell, like I said, since I was 7 years old. So it was already ingrained in me that that's where I was going. Right. But I've never been there. Mm-hmm. There is a place, Scott, where we come from. And this is me pulling way back into the spiritual concept of Dannion. There's a place where we come from, that we get chosen because of some goals that we had set for our eternal growth that we had achieved. And on those eternal growth scale, we had earned the right to take on a human form to observe ourselves separate. So the only system that the divine has is electrical, where you manifest physically can be electricity, protons, electrons, and neutrons. Mm-hmm. Okay? The neutral, you have male and female, positive and negative. The neutral is called free will. So life becomes probable possibilities. These are laws. They don't go anywhere, okay? I can use these laws to raise myself from the dead. I can hold to those frequencies. I can hunt 432. I know when to rotate 528 into my systems because we're frequency. So once that happens, you have manifested in a world to observe yourself as helpless as everyone else in that world. Every one of us are helpless. We have to need each other. If you got $1 billion, you can get cancer. Yeah, I don't care what you think. If you living in a monastery in the Himalayas in a damn cave, you can get some bat dung on the back of your neck, and who the heck knows what happens to you, okay? So we're all here helpless. Yep. So we have to find a way to need each other. The next point is you choose to come to create probable possibilities of you achieving the life's mission. So what is the meaning of life? At the end of every panoramic life review, this is what comes. The meaning of life. If God couldn't come today as you understand divinity, and God sent you, in the life you just reviewed, what difference did you and God make? Now that is what everybody's gonna face. And if you know that today, you know it today. It's not the big things, Scott. It's those little tiny things. You know, it's those little tiny things that you do every day. Because if God couldn't come today, and then people say, well, this and that and wine, and I can't buy that. Well, try this. Tell me who you think God is. Loving, caring, compassionate, protective, all-knowing,
Yep.
got your back covered. Well, then how many times per day do you as a human being get to do any and all of those things? All day, every day.
Right.
You can be caring, compassionate, protective, guardianship, empathetic. So does that not mean that you're here practicing being a God?
For being God.
For being a God. So if God couldn't come today, and God sent you, in the life you just reviewed, what difference did you and God make? Well, me and God decided to be a hospice volunteer for veterans, okay? Because there is where I could personally in my life equate to the systems that I observed called the Panoramic Life Review, and I've just had my fourth one. In 44 years, I've had my fourth one. So about 10 and a half years, I kill myself.
Right.
Okay, so I've had it. So now I'm positive that the system I'm describing, it may not work for everybody, Scott, because you have to be of a certain nature, a certain way, and certain deviations in the structure so that you can fit in and use the laws as I understand them and explain them.
Okay.
But I need people to be able to love and care about their parents. And I need some parents to be able to love, care, and protect their children, because this is the world I live in and see every day. So I want people to come and spend some time on this channel. And my part will always be palliative and end-of-life care. And I have a little cosmic side to me, Scott, but it only comes in like certain questions that people ask. But I'm always going to be just like this. I'm going to be at the bedside because that's my job. And I'm going to look at ways that innovate and create creativity that people understand. They are great, powerful, and mighty spiritual beings with dignity, direction, and purpose. And I will defy anybody who can take the definitions of those words and come at me with an argument. I will win.
Say it one more time. You said it really fast.
Okay. I defy anybody to create a program that will argue the fact that I say you are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. That means two things. One, there's only one thing that can ever go wrong in your life if what I'm arguing is true. And number two, there is only three things as a spiritual being that I am describing you as you will ever do as the reason for any action you take in this dimension.
You want to talk about the first thing and the three things?
Oh, no. I'm waiting for the challenge. We'll do it live on your show.
Okay, that sounds good.
Come on, let's put out a challenge. Let's get somebody excited about something. Come on, what are they going to do? Kill me? That's funny.
We'll wait till you need another book to come out.
No, God, no. I'm done. I have 10 Things to Know Before You Go is done. It's he said, she said, because I got into a big argument with the publisher because they wanted it to just be about me.
Yeah.
But mine is about information. I don't, I'm easy to find out everything there is in the world to know about. I mean, that's easy, no problem.
Right.
But I see that most people, based on the existential point of view of that they're hiding from their spiritual self, because it has to do with whether they're going to go to hell or not, are becoming lonely, sad, separated, and not talking.
Sure.
Well, when you're at the bedside where I'm at the bedside, and Catherine also, and you look at what the dynamics are that's going on between that family, they don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to do it. Well, then I had to create a formula with Kat, I had to create a formula that was he said, she said. I am like a clinical spiritualist.
Sure.
You know, mine is mathematics. It's
Okay.
levels of frequency and harmonics and how you detect those frequencies, how you hold a certain pace in your breath and a certain nature in your energetic field, and you can hold and perceive in those fields. And that's how I do it. There's nothing voodoo about how I do it. Well,
Okay.
Kevin just feels it. You know, it takes me like 6 times as long to get to the same place, but I still get there.
Okay.
So when you see that husbands and wives don't know how to talk, and a wife is losing a mother or a father, their closest one, the husband doesn't know how to interact or integrate into it. Or when he's losing his, she doesn't know how. So I had to write a book. I needed to write a book that created a conversational place that the female could give to her husband or the husband could give to the female to help them define where they are as they're approaching the issues that they're dealing with. 10 things you need to know before you go, which is a pattern for you to live by. But in the immediate, it's how to deal with losing someone you love or someone who has loved you.
And when is that going to be available?
Well, I'm on the last chapter, and it's, you know, it's amazing to me that somehow I only write a book every 10 years, and it's like 250 pages, and, you know, it's filled with Dannion wise cracks. But this one is now this will probably be early part of next year.
Okay, good. And people in the meantime, they can find you at DannionandCatherineBrinkley.com.
Well, yeah.
And at the Conscious Life Expo in 2020, February 7th at the LAX Hilton.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that's most important is I am now revamping after this last experience, Scott. So if you go to Dannion and Catherine, it'll lead to another site for everybody, you know, and it'll be Dannion.com, because I have to change and shift so many other patterns in the new direction I'm required to take to still achieve the same goal. The battle for the souls of humankind in the Western world will be fought in healthcare. It's not China Americans. It's not Iran Americans. It is your healthcare. What you are willing to do to keep your children, yourself, and your parents safe. This is where vaccines stop, everybody. Take a good look at the pharmaceutical world that controls your health care. And that's where I'll always be, giving people as much information, Scott, as I possibly can. So thank you.
Thank you, Dannion, for being here. I appreciate it. So people can find you at Dannion.com, DANNION.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks for being here. See you at the Conscious Life Expo.
And remember, good luck and bless you for being you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching.